What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Bro Show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Caitlin Clark, bracket busters, and the Final Four. Let's get it started.
All right, guys. So to start off, we're going to bring up our brackets, ESPN Bracket Challenge. Let's do it. Okay. Ben, can you break down your Final Four picks and your champion?
So I have UConn, North Carolina, Duke, and Purdue. I have UConn and Purdue in the finals, and I have UConn winning 76-72.
And why did you make those picks?
Well, if you've watched the games, UConn has been dominating so far, so I've made the right pick. They haven't had a closer game than 25 points. So
That's true.
And North Carolina, most people pick North Carolina. It's just a surprise that Alabama beat them. Okay, the reason why I picked Duke, I knew they were going to be Houston, but I thought they were going to be playing Marquette, so I didn't expect NC State to play them. So the NC State won. Then Purdue, I had sweeping everybody. So
Okay.
So, Joseph, you made some interesting Final Four picks this year. What do you think about them, and why did you make those picks?
Well, obviously, no one really knows for sure who's going to win each game, and I definitely didn't. So my Final Four was UConn, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Purdue. Okay, obviously, Kentucky did not have the best tournament run. They lost in the first round against Oakland. That destroyed my bracket.
16th seed.
Yeah, I think they were
No, 15.
14.
Oh, 15.
14.
Sorry.
14.
14 seed.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
bad. My bad.
But obviously, North Carolina lost to Alabama, who's a good team. That didn't hurt me too bad. But my finals, UConn and Purdue, both still in. But UConn is just such a dominant team. And even with Zach Edey at the center for Purdue, I still think UConn's going to take the dub.
Smart.
Gotcha. Okay, well, moving on to my brackets.
Okay,
Earl.
before he starts, we need to bring something up. He made 25 brackets, and this is his best bracket. He made 25.
It takes skill to make 25 brackets and end
Do
up
you know
in
how
the
much
top
time that
10,000.
takes?
Didn't you use like a random bracket generator?
Yeah,
Jackson?
you used a bracket
Yes,
generator.
I did. It's called Being Smart.
No,
Right?
stop, Jackson. I don't even think this
Well,
should be
so
up here.
my
I think we
bracket
should take this
generator-
down. This should be
Right,
not
I'll say
here.
My bracket generator
Thank you.
put UConn, Alabama, Marquette, and then Purdue in the Final Four.
This is
Sadly,
AI's bracket.
Sadly, Marquette got out earlier in the tournament, but Purdue, UConn, Alabama, all in the Final Four. And I picked Alabama to go all the way this year.
You picked Alabama?
You picked them?
Oh, yeah, it was all me. Okay?
AI picked
button to
Alabama to
Sure.
win.
Okay? All me.
AI.
And the reason I picked Alabama.
You did not pick Alabama. Tell me your reason why
Yeah.
AI picked Alabama, please.
I picked Alabama because they're going to win this year. All right?
That is so
And I'm
false.
a Mizzou fan. They're from the
Go
SEC,
Mizzou.
and so how can you not like Alabama?
K-State.
Go Mizzou.
Hey, where was K-State this year?
Okay, guys, on to the next topic.
So, Joseph Ben, which
Yeah.
game is most fun to watch, or are you most excited to watch coming up in the Final Four?
Okay, I'll go first. By far, I'm looking forward for Purdue and UConn. Not just because they're in my finals, it's because they have two amazing centers. I'm like, it's going to be so fun watching them go back and down the court.
All right, so for me, my favorite game to watch, even though obviously Kentucky kind of sold my bracket, was the Oakland versus Kentucky game. I mean, such a good game. Jack Golke absolutely destroying at the three-point line. I think we can pull up some of his highlights here.
Yeah, we have some of them right now rolling. Just dropping him from everywhere. And this is, don't get this wrong, Kentucky's a number 3 team. They have good defense. And he's just like, that's like from the deep 3.
That's Curry range right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of this guy before, but I know him now.
I know him now.
People
Everyone
know him
does.
now, that's for sure.
Like, look at this. Someone in his face. No problem.
He
This
hit
isn't
7 threes in the first half.
Just incredible. I mean,
Yeah, that's
this is
good.
where March Madness comes from. Games like this. And yeah, you can see it there. He's just
He's having the
dogging.
time of his life.
What makes this upset even crazier is that past few days before the tournament, people were saying, "Oh, Kentucky has the easiest road to the championship. Their division's the easiest. They're going to roll past Houston. Nobody
Exactly.
can beat them." And of course,
And then they
Oakland
lose
comes
in
in the
the-
first round.
Yeah.
That's what
It's a
happened in March
Cinderella
Madness,
story.
guys. Crazy.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see Oakland go a little further just because
Same.
of that incredible game. But I mean, they're still 14 seed at the end of the day. Probably not going to make it too far.
Yeah, so my favorite game that I watched was definitely the Yale versus Auburn game. Especially because I actually picked Yale to upset Auburn. It was one of the craziest
wow.
games I've seen in the tournament so far. I mean, it was tight through the whole game, but in the last few seconds, Yale pulled it out. It was really cool. So this Friday, Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers, the top 2 scorers in the women's tournament so far, are facing off. Okay, who are you picking to win that game? Now, I just want to say, at the end of the game yesterday, Paige Beckers, this is what she said in her interview. Check it out.
Yet another Final Four in your career. Can you just tell me what's going through your mind right now with this team?
There's so much gratitude. I'm a living testimony. I give all glory to God. He works in mysterious ways. Last year I was praying to be back at this stage, and he sent me trials and tribulations. But it was to build my character.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Last year she was out the whole year because of a torn ACL, and this year she came back and she's made it far in the tournament. So it's pretty cool.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Who are
very
you guys
nice.
picking to win that game this Friday?
So, as much as I respect Paige Beckers and I want her to win, I just think Caitlin Clark's revenge story after losing in the finals last year, I think she's going to march her way back and defeat UConn.
So, like Joseph just said, her losing.
Ben, where'd you go? All right, Jackson. So obviously you know who I'm picking. Now I want to know, who are you picking to win on Friday?
Yeah, it's pretty tough for me because I like to cheer for Christians. I mean, it's just kind of cool to see. But I feel like a championship would be the cherry on top for Caitlin Clark's college career, pretty
Mhm.
much. So how can you not root for that? That's my
Yeah.
answer.
Extreme respect to both teams and especially to both players. But
Yeah, one thing that was kind of crazy to me, UConn lost 5 players to injury this year, and yet they're still like that this far in the tournament, which is kind of surprising too.
yeah, they're just such a complete team, and I think they feed off of each other really well. And I think they've just got a ton of adrenaline and a lot to prove going into this game. So it's going to be a good one for sure.
For sure. Fun fact, the UConn coach for women's basketball has the most wins ever in college basketball history, men's and women's, which is kind of crazy. He's been coaching there for like 37 years, made the Final Four 23 times or whatever. So
Yeah,
insane
it's
coaching.
crazy. He's had over 1,000 total career wins as a coach for UConn, and that is just an insane number. So obviously a little bit earlier, we were already talking about upsets with the Kentucky versus Oakland game, and man, was that exciting. Upsets are some of the biggest parts of March Madness tournaments and probably the most exciting. Well, fun fact, back in 2018, Virginia was actually the first number 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed in the tournament. They later came back in 2019, back to the tournament as a 1 seed again and won the entire tournament, which is an incredible comeback story. Similar to that, in 2023, which was the last season, Purdue lost to FDU, another 1 seed to 16 seed upset. The question is, will Purdue come back like Virginia and win the tournament? Jackson, what do you think?
I don't think they're going to come back and win this tournament. I think they're a good team, obviously. They made it to the Final Four. That's pretty cool. But I think Zach Edey's really their only scorer. And if you take him out of the game with I like NC State. They have a big guy in DJ Burns. I mean, he's a big guy who can take down Zach Edey, I think. I think NC State will actually upset Purdue here, which would be insane.
Yeah, I think that Purdue definitely has a really good player in Zach Edey, but one player is not enough to win the team sport, especially not in the March Madness tournament. And I think Purdue might go down to NC State, and even if they make it to the finals, UConn's just such a good team, and I think that Purdue is going to take the L in that one.
Speaking of upsets, one of the biggest upsets in the last couple of years in March Madness history is the St. Peter's upset over Kentucky.
Yes.
They made a run through Murray State, through Purdue to the Elite Eight, and as a 15 seed. Again, this doesn't happen very often. So,
come on, Kentucky.
Insane run by St. Peter's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cinderellas are just a term that we use to define a lower seed team making a run in March Madness, and St. Peter's was a perfect example of that. Some other Cinderellas was UCLA making it all the way to the Final Four back a couple years ago, losing to Gonzaga in the last couple seconds of the game, and Loyola Chicago a while back making it all the way to the Final Four as well.
Right. Every year, these upsets happen. It's just a matter of which team is going to do it. It's like this year, NC State. Nobody would have expected NC State to make it. And speaking of NC State, did you know that the women's Final Four has NC State too? Both their women's and men's basketball teams are in the Final Four, which is crazy, like insane. I don't know if that's ever happened. I'm not sure.
I mean, so does UConn.
Gosh.
Whoa, is this the first time in history that either team
colleges, men's and women's, are both in the Final Four this year? That's got to be some kind of crazy stat.
Imagine they both make the finals. It's possible. They're both on separate halves of the bracket.
That's true.
That would be insane.
That would be pretty cool, man.
All right, guys. So with all the upsets, all the crazy games, one of the biggest questions in March Madness is, will anyone ever have a perfect bracket? Now, this goes back all the way to when the tournament started. Warren Buffett actually made a bracket challenge. It's called Warren Buffett's $1 Billion Bracket Challenge. The odds of having a perfect bracket in March Madness are so low that he is offering $1 billion to anyone that achieves this. I actually have the odds right here. The odds are over 1 in 9 quintillion. I can't think of anything else that has odds lower than that. Like, I think getting struck by lightning is like a millionth of that. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, I could probably roll a 6 of a kind in less tries. I mean, seriously.
Yeah,
that's how many tries.
Poker.
Honestly, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an insane stat. Now, I did hear that women's brackets are actually easier to pick because they're are more easy to predict in a way.
Yeah.
But
doesn't mean that it's for sure, though.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think anyone has had a women's perfect bracket either, right?
Yeah, no. Even this year.
This is all time. Okay.
So, speaking of women's, a big argument happening in women's basketball right now is Caitlin Clark versus Juju Watkins. Caitlin Clark with the legacy and Juju Watkins with the young energy and the crazy numbers right now. Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, so Juju Watkins obviously has 3 more years left to go in college basketball. She's a freshman. And then Caitlin Clark has had an insane career. I think that Clark will end up being the better women's college basketball player overall because I think she's more of a scorer than Juju is, and she's going to be able to lead a team way better than Juju.
Yeah,
so that's my opinion.
I think you have a very valid point there. I also think that Caitlin Clark will go down as the better player. I think they both have incredible talent, and we still have a lot of time to see what Juju can do. But I think Caitlin Clark's story is just quite incredible. Just coming off out of nowhere, honestly, from Iowa, and just kind of popping off these last few years, especially in the tournament, and just seeing her story and seeing her lose in the finals and come back and hopefully win would just be incredible. And I think that story really defines her as a player.
For sure. Totally agree with that. Men's Final Four, we got UConn, Alabama, Purdue, NC State. Who's your pick? Who's winning this year's March Madness?
I think that UConn is going to run it back to back. I mean, I've been saying it all episode. I just think that UConn has an extremely complete team and maybe an even better team than last year. And they have a really deep roster. I don't know if they're even going to need to use it, but I think they have the tools and the competitiveness to win another. And I'm really excited to see, hopefully, them do that. Also, I picked them in my bracket, so go UConn.
Of course. Yeah. I think that, okay, from my heart, I think that Alabama and NC State are going to be in the championship.
From your AI?
And I think that Alabama's going to win. All right. But realistically, I think we're going to see UConn and Purdue in the finals. UConn's obviously been destroying teams by 20-plus points almost every game.
Mhm.
They're, like you said, they got a really deep roster. And I would love to see that game because obviously the top two teams in the tournament going against each other. And I think Zach Edey needs to add a championship to his resume in order to be in a college basketball superstar, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Zach Edey versus UConn pretty much. So
Yeah.
I think if Zach Edey even makes it to the finals, it's really going to be can UConn shut down Edey in the paint. They don't really have like a defining big player. So they're really going to have to rely on their teamwork in that game. So it's come to the time where you guys get to participate. Comment down below, men's and women's, who do you have winning your finals, and what score do you think each of those games are going to be?
So in today's episode of The Bro Show, we covered a bunch of questions over the brackets, men's and women's. If you have any more questions you want to add, be sure to comment down below. Be sure to check us out on the next episode of The Bro Show.